Welcome to Dad Level Podcast, episode 12. This week we're going to do a giant all robot attack episode where we talk about vintage anime and TV shows and cartoons we used to watch and watch now still with our kids of different shows with robots and either kaijus with the robots or robots that are sentient that do things in the world, or, you know, they're all piloted. So
I'd like to start off by saying how amazing it is that Japan is making that giant mech that actually moves.
Oh, yes.
There's a photo going, but somebody videotaped it and sped it up. And it's so cool actually seeing a real one in a sense, you know, like.
Absolutely.
You know, we hope we start having a.
And that was a year ago. Think about what they've done since then.
Well, since this is the second one they've done, as far as the fact of making a giant one, because the third, I think they did the original Gundam, the RX-78, and then the Gundam Unicorn, and then the new one is just another RX-78, but this one actually the one that moves.
Yeah.
What's the anime called again?
Mobile Suit Gundam.
Gundam. Next thing you know, like Mechs come into the sky in wars.
Vince would be very happy about that.
Yeah, it would be. I'd become a pilot. I mean,
yeah.
sorry, IT. I'm gonna go do something else and pilot a $4 billion mech.
Don't wreck it. So my brother has always been obsessed with giant robots, mechs, transformers, you know, like he's just been super fascinated with how they work and move. And
shall we tell you the time he cried when Optimus Prime died?
Yeah, we'll get
that has been brought up already.
Yeah. So I think it would be really cool, like if that actually were to happen and, you know, they actually make real fighter mechs. My brother definitely would be that first person in line. He even thought about joining.
I'll test it out. Just let me do it.
Yeah, he was like, I want to be in the Air Force because they're going to be the first ones that have these jets transforming.
Well, so it was hilarious because I remember like right after I was, you know, got out of high school and I was getting those calls for the join the Air Army and the Air Force and everything. And I remember I got the Air Force on the phone and I was like, so I would join 100% right now. Do you have transforming jets? I was like, what are you talking about? Did you ever grow up watching or reading manga, you know, stuff from Japan, or watch Robotech or Macross? He's like, no. Yeah, I want to pilot things that transform and then, you know, I can run around as a giant, you know, robot destroying our enemies. And he's like, I'll call you back when we have that technology because we're not there yet.
Yeah, I remember that phone call too. I was like, did you really just tell the Air Force that, Vince? And he's like, yep.
I think, definitely the Air Force would get that stuff first because what I've heard, they get like nice, classy food. Like they get the top tier than everybody. Like their food service is great. They live in like hotels, like $10 million hotels. They get.
I don't know if it's that fancy, service. But I think we're getting off on a tangent, but you know, Air Force, if we're ever going to have something like that, they're definitely going to be the first ones, I think, who test it. You know, they're going to.
You got what you think about like the Army, or you know, they would have like, you know, exosuits and stuff. You know, like Exo Squad,
which supposedly they're testing.
Yeah.
In the combat field now, they're trying to make it combat ready. I've been hearing those stories for 2 years.
And they also have this technology in general is gone so far from when me and Vince were kids and even further for, you, Colin, but they have now like they're talking about doing like there's like robotic dogs.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the bomb disposal dogs, or the dogs that sense out things.
Kind of creepy, but
they're
also working. Yeah,
they look like a Metal Gear Solid. The 4 Guns of the Patriots.
They're also working on like humanoid style, which is really cool. It's kind of scary because that for me, gets into the whole Matrix thing. But
Well, they're not sentient yet, anyway.
Another anime reference there. So
Yeah.
You get it. I heard boomers. I was like, Papa.
no, wow,
I mean, am I wrong?
no shush.
Watching this.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll watch it. But yeah, go ahead. I mean, Colin, like what mech stuff did you start watching, and do you remember when you started watching it?
Well, you got to remember, my whole thing with giant robots goes way back to the Toho stuff with Ultraman. You go all the way back into, straight robot. Somehow was able to grow to Godzilla size. I'm like, wow, what is that? And, just the synchronized martial arts movements and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was fantastic. I mean, I was amazed with that. And from there, it went into a love of Shogun Warriors.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which was pre-Transformers. Actually, I mean, it was basically one of the grandfathers of the whole transforming thing, because you had the giant mechs who transformed somewhat. They weren't completely like. Was it Mazinga? Or not Mazinga did something, but there was the one Guy King.
Yeah, and then
the skull was the body. And my favorite was Raideen, who transformed into a giant bird of sorts. It looked something like, I don't know, pre-Gotcha Man, but still, it was the idea that it was more than just one thing. There was a person inside of it doing all of that. That was really what captured it for me. Then,
and it
was. Go ahead, man.
I was gonna say it was cool because like Shogun Warriors was kind of like this all encapsulating thing, because I mean you had like Voltron into that umbrella before old Voltron was here. I mean, even some of the Gundam stuff, the Godzilla figure with the missile launching hand and the flat tongue. Yeah.
I think Dad has mine still.
Yeah, I remember going over.
The fist, of course.
Yeah.
Fist one day and was gone.
And it's funny. I was talking to Dad about it and stuff, and there was a video I saw that somebody did a whole like history of the Shogun Warriors, and it really went in depth. And it's kind of sad that was a big thing for the States here to be able to have giant mecha toys, and they would always battle against them.
Yeah, those things. Raideen was almost 3 feet tall.
Oh my gosh.
Raideen was huge, and his face panel closed, and a couple of the things flipped around, and it turned into basically what it was. I mean, for me, the impact was more than just the fact that there were the giant toys and later on the little metal ones. But Marvel Comics picked it up.
Yeah.
And Marvel ran with it for a while, which means that, Shogun Warriors are still Marvel canon somewhere.
Yeah, and the sad thing is I don't think Shogun Warriors actually got a cartoon. There was just too many properties that it was trying to encapsulate for them to do something like that. Yeah, Transor Z here in the States. We got.
There were a couple of somethings. I seem to remember there being something else too. I don't. It wasn't maybe not Shogun Warrior, but Shogun Warrior adjacent. It was connected.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I'd have to look that up.
I really liked how a lot of the stuff that like we grew up watching, it kind of got revamped a bit for like the younger generation.
Right.
Because our dad really loved Voltron, and I remember my brother always playing with Dad's figures and turning them into the cats and doing all that stuff with them, and then trying to build the giant mech with all the different pieces. And then they revamped that not that long ago. I want to say it was probably like what? Were we still living with Papa all the time? I don't remember. But they revamped
7 seasons or so.
Yeah,
the new Voltron series.
Him and Logan were watching it. He was getting really into it, and it's cool.
My favorite was Power Rangers.
He liked the Power Rangers Samurai series, which was actually really good.
Well, Power Rangers is basically the descendant of Voltron.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same general concept, just like Ember said, revamped for a newer generation.
Well, yeah, you had because you had the Super Sentai stuff, which is what was converted over to Power Rangers here in the States.
Right.
And it's funny because, Spider-Man was in that too, had his own little series with Marveler.
Or the Japanese Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's the one I think that they're talking about putting in the new Miles Morales movie.
The Marveler, the suit, the mecha.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's the one my fiance is actually pretty happy about. He's like, they're gonna bring him in, and I was like, calm down.
Spider-Man.
Yeah. And then the other big, it wasn't really a mech, but Vince, do you remember the Godzilla movie with what's his name? I'm really bad with names.
Godzilla? You're talking about which one?
I don't remember.
It was a collage. It was like a collage with the. It's basically a guy who is a.
It was a guy in a suit, but not like a monster suit. He was meant to be like a giant robot, but Godzilla fought him, and I don't remember his name, and I feel like
let's fall alongside each other. It was a collage.
I feel like I'm letting all the names.
That was the.
No, there was.
What was it? Don't ask Rob.
Jet Jaguar.
Yes, that's what I'm actually thinking. Yes, Jet Jaguar. Yes.
But wasn't he supposed to be like a giant mech, a giant like robot person, or was it just?
No, he was just a robot.
Yeah, just a robot.
Just an AI who had the ability to change his size all of a sudden.
Which is cool because the new Godzilla series, the animated one that's coming out on Netflix, is going to have him in it.
Really?
Yeah. The trailer has him in it. So I was like, oh man, this is going to be awesome. But it's funny because, for me, Transor Z was one of the biggest things that I love watching. I remember being little, like younger than Edward and Alice. I think I was like 4 or 5 when that show came out, and I loved it. The little helicopter, the little machine that he flew, the jet, and it would fly into the head and everything, and he'd fight all those different monsters. But I think my real love for mecha was because of Robotech. That watching that with Dad every day it came out, and when it was it brought a lot of different things to the US that weren't a standard. I think it was the first cartoon that had the first interracial couple with Roy Fokker and Claudia. There was a lot of things that in outside the US that were common that here in our society just wasn't commonplace at all. And to have
even anime alone, just us growing up, being born in the 80s, and Dad introducing us to all kinds of animation, Fist of the North Star, and and that's a whole episode that we're going to do on anime itself, because there's a lot of backstory with the club that Dad and Ray and a couple of the other friends they had. I think even Colin went to, and that group, a lot of the founders of that ended up creating ADV, the company that did Evangelion, of course, and a lot of stuff. Oh yeah, and just the reason I brought that up was just because how popular mechs and stuff and giant robots and Transformers has become in the United States. I remember when it was weird to talk about that. People were like, "You watch what?" And we're like,
"Yeah, what is this? What is Japanese cartoons? Anime? What is anime?" Because it was like, I know of The Simpsons, I know of the regular stuff that I watch on Saturday morning. I have no clue what you're talking about.
That's not Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
Now it's like a religion. It's
it is.
a cult.
Yeah, cult-like status on a lot of stuff. Absolutely.
Well, and it's changed a lot. If you look at some of the stuff back then, and we're getting into an anime topic anyway.
You can turn it into
part of it.
Well, it's all part of it. It all interconnects. You look at the
Transformers and stuff, the style of that animation was so different than when we watched Robotech or Macross Plus. Like I remember when Macross Plus came out, I was like, this is amazing. I love the music. I love the way it was drawn, and it made me, who I'm not really a huge fan of giant robots and mechs. Like I am to a point. My brother's obviously the much bigger fan than I am of it. I just kind of grew up around it. But to me, the way that it was animated was so much better looking than what we saw growing up. So it kind of got me into it. Me and my brother had a conversation about Evangelion. Like they would always try to get me to watch these mech animes, and I'm just like, I'm not more fantasy, Lotus War, that kind of stuff. And Vince is like, you need to watch this, Ember. So we all, me, Dad, and Vince would watch Evangelion when it first aired. And I remember Vince would go and buy, or Dad would, the books on how it was drawn. It would show the characters, how the mechs were all drawn out, and it kind of show you the concept art and everything. And me and Vince would just sit and draw those characters all the time. And I remember going, look who I drew. And he's like, oh, that's really good, Ember, good job, and they've relaunched that one now. And he's starting to get into that one. Him and Brock, my fiance,
You've been watching the remakes, the movies.
The redub of it, yeah, and then the new movies that,
like one more movie.
We're Not Alone and all that stuff, yeah. Which I can't wait for the fourth one to finish that out.
I think this year or next year, I can't remember.
It was supposed to be this year, but or last year, but I think because everything with the pandemic and stuff.
Yeah.
But no, it's funny because I want to go back to Robotech, but I do want to bring this up with Evangelion, was the fact that I remember, so Hollywood Video over there off of Fairmont and Shaver,
Yes,
was like the hangout for us. And I want to get into an episode where we just talk about what it was like going to rent movies every Tuesday and on the weekend, Friday.
Oh, absolutely.
But we had a friend, Jimmy, who was an artist, and we got him to start bringing an anime into that place. And that's actually what kind of got us to become friends with him. And so that Hollywood was one of the first stores, and most of the Hollywood locations, at least in Texas, I know of, that actually was starting to pull in anime videos, even import stuff.
Right.
And I remember it was one summer, and I was hanging out with Jonathan, and we were like looking for stuff to watch, and we saw it and was like, okay, let's check this out. So me and him went back to the house, and for those that know, we were living off of Strawberry and Wentwood. And we got back to the house, we popped that VHS in and just started watching. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. So we went and rented the next 3 videos, and then we were just waiting for them to come into the store for us to rent them. And then eventually, we were buying the VHS copies. And then eventually when they did the first box set, that's what I have on DVD with the original dub, with the original, that original dub translation. That's what I like. I mean, I like that original dub. It's hard watching the new one for me who watched the original, and with the way they changed kind of the story a little bit. And and that's why I love the new one, because it kind of plays off the original trilogy more than, the original series, than it does the redub.
Right. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
Like
in the case of Akira.
Yeah, well, and I like both. I like both dubs, but it's hard to compare the more accurate traditional dub of the new one to the original voice actors. I mean, you got the voice of Leonardo. Come on, I'm blanking on his name for some reason. People are yelling it out at me right now. Clark, Cam.
Not DiCaprio.
Cam Clark, I think it is, or Clark Cam. I'll remember in a minute. But he was the voice of Kaneda, and of course it was Kaneda and that, not Kaneda, like they did in the redub. But it's funny because of course he did a lot of different shows too, as far as voice acting. Which one of them goes back to Robotech, and the fact that he was Yellow Dancer or Lancer in the Next Generation.
Yes.
Hmm. Yeah, and actually he was Max and the Macross Saga, Maximilian.
That's right.
Yep.
I
And go ahead.
This is about Transformers. I personally, Transformers was an iffy thing for me. Like I saw it, it was cool, but what I wanted to see was the war. That's what I wanted to see, and I wanted to like experience their planet being destroyed, and like the thing they before they come to Earth. And then when the Netflix series came out about that, I loved it. I watched it nonstop.
So that one's good, but I'll let you read my. Go ahead. I'll tell.
Cam Clark.
It is Cam Clark. Okay. Just making sure. Yeah. You're awesome. I don't know if you're ever going to see this, but yeah.
Google.
You're Leonardo from Turtles. But no, the Dreamwave, IDW, well, it was Dreamwave who did it at first, was the War Within series. Really good. I'll let you read it. Next time I come up, I'll bring them up there for you to read them. And that's actually a better story as far as the war than I felt that the Siege one was. Not that it wasn't, that it takes away from the Siege story, but I prefer that one better.
This might be like a disappointment to you guys, but my first introduction to Transformers was Michael Bay.
I feel like I'm failing as a
Gotta start
parent.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Gotta start
He,
somewhere.
of course, liked Bumblebee. Was one of his favorite.
It still is my favorite.
It still is his favorite. But we all had to explain to him that originally Bumblebee was a Beetle. It was a different type of car. It was the first car in that movie that he's sitting next to, and he
The
kind of
original
like
Bumblebee. Yeah,
Yeah.
the original. Yeah.
Logan, have you seen the original animated movie?
I think
Mid-80s?
I started it. I think I started with somebody.
I think he started watching it with Dad,
Yeah, I didn't finish it though.
and I'm not sure if he finished watching it with Papa.
Okay. When I have you for the week in the summer, you will be watching it. I've watched that movie like a million times. I mean, it feels like, but I've watched it at least like 5 or 6 times with Edward,
Yeah,
and
so
he loves it.
So
Yeah.
Growing up and watching Transformer cartoon, and then also obviously G.I. Joe, but that's a completely different topic.
Knowing more.
It had a catchy theme song. So the minute it started, Vince is running in there to go watch. Got his little, makeshift stuff, because my brother used to make things out of like toilet paper and
Oh, yeah, this is before. Yeah, I used to do a lot of cool
Logan's
stuff.
going outside.
Yeah.
When Logan goes across behind the laptop, it looks like he's going outside and going
Yeah.
back and forth. It's the reflection, but it looks like he's outside his basin.
Yeah, he phased through the wall. He's out there now. But yeah, I mean, there were even times that Dad would take us to that flea market. I don't remember exactly what it was off of.
Coles.
We talked about that one a couple episodes back.
And there would be people in there who had very old toys. And sometimes Vince would find the one that he was missing.
Yeah.
Even if it was like an arm missing, Vince was like, Dad, can I have it?
Well, it's funny too, because like I remember I got Hot Rod for Easter.
Hot Rod was my favorite. He was my favorite.
Grandma, I remember we were at Grandma's and she went and it was like, we were going to buy some toys. She went and took us to Toys R Us off of Alameda. I know it's gone. I know it's gone.
Yes.
The one
that
off
was one of our spots.
Yeah, that the one off Alameda right there was the one we used to go to. Because we would hit there, we'd go hit the Target, and we would also hit that Best Buy there when it actually opened up.
Best, not Best Buy.
Oh yeah, yes, it was Best. Yeah, the building that had that looked like it was in an earthquake.
That fake volcano look thing on it.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
then we would go over to the game room in the mall, and then we would go hit one of the video stores, and then we would go to the apartment, and it'd be all weekend at the apartment.
Yep.
Oh, so off topic real fast. Remember that game room you guys were talking about in one of y'all's episodes? And it's the one that had the giant water wheel in it, and it looked like an old mining town.
Yeah, U.S. Golf and Games. Yeah.
Yes. So surprisingly,
Which is right around the corner too from over there.
yes. I had friends in high school and even after high school that worked there. Marcus and Damien.
Yeah.
They worked there. And so we would go over there sometimes, and I'm just like, as a young lady, I mean, I'm like 19, 20 years old at this point. I walk in there and I'm like, wow, this brings back so many memories of us going here. Like everything was still there. The putt.
Batting cages.
I used to think that place was haunted as a kid because it was always so dark.
Yeah.
Oh, bad.
Yeah.
Ember, do you remember your first introduction to a game room?
To be honest, I mean, the one that stands out the most is Super Track.
Yahtzee.
But
you were just able to walk when you started going.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the carpet. It had a smell to it. Like the game room had a smell you just knew. And they always had that like galaxy style.
Yeah, the stars, yeah.
Your feet felt like they kind of stuck to the carpet a little bit because people built sodas and stuff. I know we're getting off topic. I'm so sorry, but we
no. Hey, we're having fun
here, and it's called the Starship or Spaceship something, and it has the blacked out windows and everything. And it's got the bright neon sign, and it's an arcade. So eventually, I want to take the kids there. I want to see if it's like a real style arcade and be like, we're going.
Yeah.
There's a place my dad took me.
Yeah, definitely got to take pictures.
There's a place my dad took me to where it was legit all old arcade things.
Nice. It wasn't Nickel-Rama, was it?
No, it's not Nickel-Rama. Nickel-Rama's with the new stuff.
Oh,
This had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle one that he has. It had the Mario. It had Galaga. It's separate. Not the Pac-Man and Galaga. And they were just two separate bottles.
Yeah.
They had
there was one that had a ball. Was that Centipede? That had the ball on it?
Yeah.
Missile Command had that too.
They had the X-Men one there.
Oh, no. What?
Well, I can't wait for that arcade one up to come out for that. I just have to say, I'm waiting.
The one with X-Men?
Yep. There's a 4-player version, though.
Was it?
But the X-Men was a 6-player one.
I just saw an X-Men one at Walmart a couple weeks ago. I don't know if it was the 2-player or the 4-player.
Oh no, that's the one that I have. That's the X-Men versus Street Fighter, the fighting game, not the one.
Because I don't remember seeing Street Fighter on this one. It was. I'll have to go back and look and take a picture of it because it looked different from that one.
No.
Okay, I don't think it's out yet, but I think because what's funny is the artwork on the arcade is more X-Men related. It's the Jim Lee X-Men stuff, not the the one from the prior to the X-Men episode, which is where they got the theme for that X-Men game, the 6-player one.
There is
So, speaking of video games and mechs, Vince, you remember when we used to go to Dave & Buster's back when they had those
the BattleTech stuff? Yeah.
And it came down and you played a mech.
Or Mech Warrior. I don't remember what it was called, but yeah.
I heard about that, but never got to play it.
It was really fun. I don't know if Dad found out about it because of work. Like, I'm not sure if they did some kind of like work event or something at one, but he found out about it and took us. And
it was us and Mark and Josh and
and that became like a weekend event where we kept going back. And then I think we found some way to save our mechs. I guess the guy that was working it knew how to save our characters. So we'd go in and go, hey, we're here, load me up with that one. And so we'd start off with all the stuff that we had gained from the last time we were there.
Yeah, we were learning how to do all the buttons because it had like all the buttons all over the cockpit. And then you would, if the more you learned, the more advanced the gameplay would be. So like you'd get to the point to where, you know, if you knew, like say you're overheating your jetpacks and stuff, you got to jettison them or it's going to explode. You'd have to go and find the switch to be able to do that. And it would drop them off so you can actually continue to play. So it was fun. Huh?
I told him I wish they'd still had it. He would have a blast with that.
I love
Yeah.
Star Wars one.
Well, they usually sometimes they have them at Comic Palooza. I've seen it there twice at Comic Palooza.
Really?
Yeah. So next time once the pandemic's done and we get to go to Comic Palooza, we'll look and see if it's there.
Hopefully.
I haven't been one in years. Last one I went to, I think, was PAX. No.
No, the last time you went to Comic Palooza was with Paul. I didn't go with you, but I want to say it was 2, maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah. It was Edward was there. I think that was the one that Zip was at.
Okay, then because Zip was talking about Logan because there was some chick that kept coming up to him and wanting to talk to Zip, and Logan's like, "You need to get her number." That sounds like my son.
Wingman over here.
Yeah.
Was that at the George R. Brown?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. But going back to Robotech, one of the things too is like just recently, and I talk about this in the episode 11 where we were talking about collecting and stuff, is that, you know, just recently announced that Big West and Harmony Gold has finally had an agreement, so that way we can actually start getting some of the sequels and the movies for Macross coming to the West.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then they're actually going to continue their storyline that they were working with Sentinels for Robotech. So this is awesome time to be a fan for this. Hopefully that means that companies in the West would be able to get the rights to some of the Robotech, I mean the Veritechs and the Battleoids and everything from these different shows and bring them here so it'll be cheaper than having to pay all the import costs and stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
At least some kind of licensing thing.
Mm-hmm.
That would be nice.
Was this
Yeah,
the one
'cause-
that you Logan?
Yeah, that one.
Because the
This is another one I
Sentinels.
wanted to bring up.
Yeah, what they were trying to
the
do
way
with
they
that.
finished with the Sentinels before was just
Yeah, it was awful. They didn't do a whole good job. They ran out of money from what I remember, part of the reasons why they stopped.
Gotcha.
I thought
So
it was
we-
some kind of agreement fallout or something.
It could have been. It really could have been.
So we found the anime that Logan watched.
This is how I got introduced
Let me
to.
see if y'all can see it.
Oh, that's yeah.
It's hard to see. I apologize for the phone glare, but
I don't even know how to.
That's the first one I watched for like anime. That's
I'm not familiar with that.
introduced me to it.
It's a good
really-
one.
you should watch it.
Really good. So basically, the mech and the guy with the white hair, they come from an outer space, and basically they left Earth because this like alien species called the Hidales came and invaded, and basically Earth was so broken it became an icicle.
Oh, okay.
But he gets like separated from his fleet from the Hidales because they attack, and he lands on Earth, and Earth is just this giant ocean world.
Kind of like a water world. Like
Yeah.
there's more water than there is.
And then he lands on the ship because they find him, and these are like scavengers, the people who have their kind of own mechs. Now, as I Venice is his mech. They have this giant colony. It's basically about him learning about their colony, like their place they call home, and then him learning that this is basically how all of it started. How this planet is how all of what he's fought and what he's here for started.
Doesn't he learn more about humanity too? Because isn't he kind of very detached from?
Yeah, because they're like
I don't want to spoil it, so I'm not gonna say anymore.
Okay, It's very interesting. I mean, the animation is really cute. It's good. It's not harsh on the eyes. Like I know sometimes there's a lot of animes that are hard to watch because the way that it's drawn and flows. This one's really good, and the one of the main girls in it has this cute little, looks like a squirrel kind of.
It's a glider.
Yeah, like it's. I don't know if it's. I don't think it's a sugar glider. Is it? It might be. Might be a sugar glider. And so it's really cute, but it has a very mature undertone to it. And it does have a lot to do with the mech. I think the mech itself has its own kind of an intelligence apart from him. So it kind of gives me the vibes of Klaatu Parada Necto, that old movie where the alien.
The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Yes, that's what I was thinking, and I just couldn't remember if that was the name of it. So kind of where the person who pilots it is its own person, but so is the mech, the ship has its own kind of like AI. So it's pretty cool. I started watching it before he did, and then I realized it was kind of mechy, and I was like, eh. And I showed it to him, and then he really got into it and watched the whole thing.
The whole cool thing about it is that where he comes from, there's like a humanity on this giant, like, cool Earth. Like it's a giant flat plain with trees, and it's surrounded this giant like orb, and that's what they protect. And that's what their home is called. But they never go there. They're never raised. They never been in that place before. But basically, he had a younger brother, and his younger brother was amputated. He couldn't walk his legs. His legs were, and he was supposed to be part of the fighting squad and like help out destroy the Hideos, but he couldn't, so they sent him off and killed him because he wasn't useful.
Well, don't tell him too much.
Well, it's not a big plot of the story.
Okay.
Well, the thing that reminded me of that anime, I need to finish watching it, but it reminded me of, like, which is funny because it's another mech related thing, Xenogears. It had that kind of like, there's a point in the game where like you're on a ship like that, and it just reminded me of that whole mechs with in the future with people and stuff. So,
but it reminds me, getting into Evangelion, about how one of the reasons why I like that one was because the mechs were an organic machine.
Okay, yes.
And it was very different than Robotech, how that's one of the main ones that I watched with my brother and my dad. And that one, I think, I got into the human aspect and emotions of that anime. I think if it gets, personally for me, if it gets too, lack of better words, mechanical, less human element, I tend to kind of fall away from it. Then if it has that human element in it, it kind of draws me in more than it just being cold and metallic, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, so something that creates more of a symbiosis between pilot and machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's some animes, like I love Gundam, and the fact that it's a political drama. It's got this, the combat with the mechs and everything, but everything is like usually politically driven. Because they're having some kind of conflict with either, you have the space noids wanting to, have their own freedom and rights from, the Federation, the Earth, the humans, on the Earth. So, but funny is, like, we were talking about how that animes that sometimes get a second dub and it's can be jarring. One of my favorite Gundam series is Mobile Suit Gundam Seed, and for some licensed reason, when they had to redub it when they released it out a second time, because like the DVD versions I have has the original cast, and now it's like trying to watch those, and I was like thinking about buying them on Blu-ray when they come out, and I'm like, I can't. It just doesn't sound right. It takes me out of the whole experience.
Yeah. That's like watching something with a certain voice actor, and then it gets redone, like you said, what they're doing with other stuff, and then you watch it and you're like, That's not how that person sounds like
Right.
at all.
It'd be like putting Jason O'Mara in Kevin Conroy's place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Jason O'Mara does a great Batman, but Kevin Conroy is the Batman. If you were to
Yeah.
replace him, it would just lose its mystique. It would lose all of its wonderfulness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's me with which goes to another game that has to do with giant mechs in a way, Metal Gear Solid, and the fact that David Hayter is Solid Snake. I'm sorry, and it's so weird having Kevin Costner. Why did I say that? I'm going to take that and fix that. Kiefer Sutherland.
Gotcha. Doing it when that's not the voice that we grew up listening to.
Yeah, I did that. Kevin Costner.
So he wanted to say that creature that they're fighting against in that one anime, it looks a lot like a nautilus, like an actual.
Yeah, like
like a real. That's the. So I haven't, like I said, I haven't really watched much more than like 2 episodes of it. So, but when he really gets into something and really likes it, there's a reason behind it because he's very picky about the stuff that he watches. So I would definitely recommend giving that one a shot and seeing if it's something you like, But I think it's cool seeing how much mechs and giant robots like getting into movies now. Like I loved Pacific Rim.
Oh yeah.
Love. Like the whole concept of it. It had, the giant monsters, it had the giant robots, and the way it was filmed, it really felt like these things had gravity, weight to it. As they moved, they kind of had that slow moving, but it wasn't so slow that it looked like somebody just slowed it down. It looked like it just had weight to it. It was trying to do certain things. And people gave that movie a lot of crap, and I honestly feel like it was well done. I didn't see the second one.
Second one's good.
First one was really good.
You can skip the second one.
Yeah, I've only watched maybe 15 minutes of the second one.
I love the second one. The second one's good.
Okay.
And I'm watching the anime series right now with the new.
I've yet to watch that. It's on my list.
Mm-hmm.
What does it come on? It's
on Netflix.
Netflix?
Basically, the whole, the crack opens again.
Oh, okay.
And it takes over.
Spoilers.
Well, it's the first episode soon.
It seemed like to me that it's like the holes have been opening up again, and it's like a post-apocalyptic even more than what it was in
when it was prior.
Yeah. But talk about movies that had mechs in it. I mean, you think about when our films here in the States were trying to do stuff, you had Robojocks. And of course, I know there's a drinking game with how many times it says Achilles in the movie. Achilles, name over and over again. So every time you hear the name, you got to take a shot. But it was still a great movie. It was like, for us, it was like, oh my gosh, we're finally getting to see. And the cool thing about it is that movie was practical effects.
Yeah.
It wasn't CGI, so it didn't have that that sheen on it. It looked like it lived in that world. Mm-hmm. And then, there's been stuff here and there, and I'm trying to think of other movies, but you get.
With Hugh Jackman, or was that Robocop?
Yeah.
No, that was.
I would consider those giant robots.
That would be robot, but I'm trying to. That's Real Steel.
Real Steel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which was good, but it was very much Rock'em Sock'em robots.
Robots, yeah.
Yeah. But it was good. I think it was well made. I think, yet again, it added that human element to, AI that I like so much.
What do you think about too? It's a good dad movie with your son or your kid or your daughter. Being able to have something where you can feel what it's like to be that dad going through the situations. Not that our lives are as crazy as his was, but you can sometimes get wrapped up so much in your life that you maybe miss out on things that you need to do with your kids, or you lose focus.
Which is very easy to do with the everyday routine that we go through as parents, you know, bringing this around to the whole parent side of this podcast, is it's so easy to get wrapped up in the routine of going to work, coming home, doing the house chores, which you can because you're tired, you know, and then you got to deal with the kids and what they need. And then all of a sudden you realize months have gone by and y'all haven't done anything.
You guys spent time together. Yeah.
Yeah.
No time was spent together, you know.
Mhm.
So it's really tough. And, you know, I definitely commend Dad for, he did it on his own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was 2, you know, and he still made it a point to make sure that we got to go to the park. We got to spend time and we went to the movies. Like, how many times did Dad, he can't get in trouble now, but how many times did Dad, like, let us skip school to go see a movie, like Star Wars or whatever, you know, or, oh, these new toys are coming out. We're going to go to Toys R Us. We're going to stand in line.
So midnight release of something. We're gonna go do this.
Yeah. Especially on
Yeah, we're
Fridays.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A couple times during the week too.
Yeah, there'd be Fridays where I would just skip school myself. Your dad would come get me. We would haul you guys off to all the little places we mentioned before. Just hit all the spots and just make the whole weekend of it.
Yes, exactly.
It's funny because he never did that with me.
Glorious.
Well,
see, here's the thing, bud. When you were down here, we did do stuff like that. When you guys were living here in Houston, we did stuff like that because I was right around the corner, you know, from where I was living and where you guys were living, you know, off of 249. I mean, we weren't that far away. So we would do things. We did things all the time on the weekends. You know, it's hard when we're, you know, miles, if not thousands of miles apart from each other.
yes, it does. It does make it harder. And, you know, unfortunately, COVID's made it even harder to do that. But luckily, we've been able to do these things with each other and, you know, together through different means. And, you know,
well, that's role playing and being able to do that role playing through Zoom or, you know, of course, starting the podcast, so we can just talk about old times and rekindle everything that we used to do and, you know, encapsulate it into, you know, a capsule for our kids. So
exactly.
Oh, I can get my enhanced license.
You wish what?
My enhanced license.
Mm-hmm.
So I can fly and travel now.
Oh, nice. Yes.
I've been waiting on that. Cost me a lot of money, but I got it.
Nice.
So.
That's awesome. I was going to say that there's a lot of, as far as mechs and stuff are concerned, there's even like Disney XD shows that have come out that have had mechs in it. Mm-hmm. And it's cool just watching all the things that we grew up watching and people made fun of us for watching or called us weird, are now becoming the norm. Like, I can't tell you how many cars I'll see that have those decals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes.
Not just like the anime mechs, but, you know, like the Transformer stuff.
Yeah,
like
the
some of them have
Autobots and the
Decepticons. Yeah.
Yes, I've seen a lot of those.
So, I mean, it's really cool. Like, there was another one, Appleseed, that me and Vince watched.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So there's Gunhead.
Which is one I want to talk about. Gunhead itself. Okay, so there was a transition between Godzilla 1984 and before we got Godzilla versus Biollante. They were in the process of trying to think of what they wanted to do. And one of the suggestions was Godzilla fighting a supercomputer. And then it would eventually change into Mechagodzilla in the movie. But it ended up getting scrapped, and then they took that idea and created Gunhead. And Gunhead is about a supercomputer on an island that was creating military weapons. Well, it decides to strike back against the world. So there's this giant war that happens with the world and this island and the supercomputer. Well, a battalion of these mechanized tanks that can transform into robots called Gunheads are there on the island. Well, they're able to stop the island from being able to destroy, you know, send out nukes and things. I can't remember the part of it, what they were trying to stop. But so you're basically like, it's decades later, and you're following a group of bandits that fly into the island to go steal this material called Tex-Mexium, which is a ridiculous name.
Tex-Mexium.
It's ridiculous, but
sounds like an off-brand,
yeah,
food vendor on the side of a freeway.
So the main character is named Brooklyn, and he is actually more of a mechanic and not a pilot. He gets claustrophobic when he's in tight spaces, especially if he's piloting something. Well, he ends up all of his team gets killed except for him, and then he ends up meeting with a Texas Ranger who just happens to be on the island, which is like, where's this island at? How close is it to Texas? Like why are the Texas Rangers actually like global now?
We're no longer in Texas. You better watch out.
Yeah, I don't know.
Tex-Mex Rangers.
Tex-Mex Rangers.
Tex-Mex Rangers. Oh man.
But he ends up finding one of the gunhead. Actually, it's just a burial ground of just literally of all the gunhead parts. He puts one back together, and they're sentient. So he ends up becoming friends with the gunhead unit. And then, I don't want to go too much more into the story, but it was a really good story. I enjoyed it a lot. It's one of my favorites. And I know it's not the best, but for the time of what it was, I think I was like 12 or 13 when it came out. And I loved it. It was great. I was hoping that they would make more things like that, but then we ended up getting Biollante and all of the rest of the Heisei era of Godzilla, which is amazing too, which is funny because the actor that played Brooklyn in that ended up playing in I think 2 movies of the Godzilla series. And I can't remember his name, so don't roast me, please.
It's not Godzilla topic. You're excused.
We're gonna get into that too, but not this episode.
Not today. There's a lot. There's so much to talk about.
There's so much to talk about.
Before we move on to the next one, let me take it back to a Transformers-like clone. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep, GoBots.
GoBots.
Yep, which was actually released here first before Transformers. They just didn't have a cartoon series.
Do you guys remember the cartoon?
Right away.
Yeah, GoBots.
It was the Nickelodeon show with the Bumblebee was a leader, and then they found giant containers with the Decepticons in them.
Yeah, that was actually pretty good.
That Transformers? I want to see Transformers go so bad. I know that's not right.
That would be. I could just see it now. It's. You just take the idea and concept of Teen Titans Go, but they do it to Transformers.
Oh,
Yeah,
don't put that in the universe.
It was a good show.
Well, I know what you're talking about. I did see a couple episodes.
Yeah, I watched it. I watched it too.
Me and Papa watched it nonstop.
I just can't remember what the name of it was.
Yeah, I can't remember that because it wasn't one of the ones that that was really designed for the younger generation.
My generation.
Yeah.
What was the Beast ones?
Beast Wars.
Beast Wars.
Yeah.
We watched a lot of that too. And I don't remember if was he born for that? Or was it something that just me, you, and Dad
I would hope that he was not born during Beast Wars because you were still like in.
No. Beast Wars was a while ago. That's all.
Yeah,
you. A while back, yeah. Well, I mean, remember I was 21 when I had him, so. I
know, but this is like no.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
I mean, really, look, I'll just do this. I may be able to identify most, if not all, Transformers and stuff, but I can't sit there and tell you when things came out.
Give me a second.
Oh, to Google.
To Google.
That's my saying for everything. If I don't know, I'm going on Google.
That's why.
First
96.
episode air date was 96. You beat me to it.
Yeah, let's not talk
Keep in
about
mind.
that. Logan was not born.
Yeah, tell me about it. Considering the fact that I was 15 at the time when that came out.
Were we watching that in the house, Vince, on Wentwood?
Yes.
Oh my God! Wow.
Also, yes, we were. We just moved to that house when I was going to Miller.
Well,
and
the
you
fact
were
that I
at.
was like, was Logan born? Of course not. Like, what the? Okay, yeah, okay.
This would have been around the time that Andrew would have been hanging out with you in school before I met him.
You remember when he made fun of me? You mean?
Yeah. Before he
That's how
actually became
we
friends.
became friends because of that. Yeah, so we'd be further along in class and in this book if it wasn't for Ember, and I was just like, I can hear you. Like I'm right in front of you. I'm sorry, I'm dyslexic. Don't be mean.
There's a
I'm,
show
uh,
that me and my roommates watch with
Hmm?
your favorite anime mech.
Macross Plus.
No. The other one.
There's a
Gundam?
lot.
Gundam.
Gundam. Oh, Stardust Memory? Or are you talking about the War in the Pocket with the?
It was
The
when
boy.
they had figurines and like they placed them
Oh,
down.
okay. Yeah, I was watching that because I grabbed Funimation so I can because my nephew wanted me to watch My Hero Academia, but we're watching the
That was a
Gundam Builders or something. I think it was. It was okay. It was a good watch. Typical like MMO kind of thing where the characters are stuck in their or one of the characters is stuck or yeah.
No, none of them were stuck. They were kind of like a.
Well, no, that little girl was actually part of the AI in the system.
Yeah.
And then what about Ready Player One?
Yeah, with the
haven't seen
with the
that.
Gundam.
You haven't seen Ready Player One, Colin?
No, I have not seen it.
Okay.
My backlog is like 3 years right now. of
Oh,
stuff
we're
I
gonna
need to
get you
watch.
caught up. Don't
Okay,
worry.
I won't say anything about the movie, but I will talk about the difference in the book and the movie. So, and this is not something that okay. So there's a thing that happens in the book, in the movie during the big final battle that was really cool and visually stunning. But had they done what they originally planned, not originally planned, but was originally in the book, it would have been right up your alley because the fact that it was the Ultraman that he got. And he turns into Ultraman instead of what he turns into in the movie.
Yeah.
I think it's better.
No, I was great, but I would have loved to seen Ultraman. I mean, that's
I love the
Yeah.
Iron Giant.
I want to see Ultraman on the big screen. I mean, I've watched him for a long time. I love the Netflix series, which I'm waiting for the next season to come out for.
I still need to watch that.
Huh?
I still need to watch that. I mean, probably started
It's
it.
good. It's
Gotcha.
really good.
And then that one's really cool because it takes a lot of the stuff that we've grown
Yeah,
up
it's
watching.
a very big pop culture fest for us, nostalgia candy.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's some things that like not just that, but there's some other stuff in the books that's different than.
there's a lot of stuff in the book that's different. But that's not about it. The whole thing about the books are always better than the movies.
Oh yeah.
You gotta
They're working on the second one.
The book's already finished.
Yeah, I already read it. That's good.
Brock's
Ready
already
Player
read it as
2
well.
movie they're talking about.
Oh, the movie. Okay.
Yeah.
That's gonna be cool. He's told me about some of the stuff, so I kind of know the whole storyline behind that. We won't get too far into it, but just there's seeing the Gundam, seeing Iron Giant. You know what I mean? Like some of
That's
those.
just stuff in the trailer, so you're not missing anything.
Seeing stuff like that on the big screen was really, really cool. You know what I mean? Just there's so much.
Overwatch is in it.
Iron Giant's another good one to bring in.
Yeah, Iron Giant was a great movie.
Iron Giant was a fantastic movie.
Oh, it was, and I love that it was a period piece too,
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
which was cool.
Very giant Robo the esque in a way from the old manga.
I think Dad actually has them.
Oh, the figure for
Iron Giant. I think Dad actually went out and bought them at some point.
The breakfast that one kid had at the very beginning of the movie, that one shop he went to, looks so good.
Or his mom worked at the diner.
Yeah, it looks so good.
Mm-hmm.
well, that's definitely an episode about talking about movies that you see with food
Yes.
because it's
Yeah.
like Twister with the steak and egg breakfast they have it.
Yes. Always makes me want that. And then any Studio Ghibli movie with
Yes.
food.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I want that.
I mean, it's animated mukbang is what it is.
Oh yeah. How's Moving Castle with the Calcifer and the bacon?
May all your bacon burn.
It was just bacon and eggs, but they made it look so good.
Yeah, because it was like thick cut bacon.
You should watch Food Wars.
No, okay. Adults only.
Yeah, I watched it.
Well,
I watched all.
Get himself in trouble right now. Yeah.
this boy and his lewd anime.
Well, me and Jacob watched it together. So.
It doesn't make it any
Doesn't make it any better.
I know he's 15. I know he's
kind of
hormone driven.
It's just food. You gotta think about it. It's just food.
But they go way.
I gotta have a together.
They really get into it.
Exactly. Anyway, go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
So, I mean, trying to think of some other stuff. I mean, like, I know that we're going to get a live action Robotech movie finally, especially now that this stuff happened with
and the live action Gundam.
Yes, and
That's
I am
exciting.
so excited for that. And I'm wondering where they're going to take. If it would be really cool if they just did the original series with Armoro and Char and all that stuff with the sides, and do something like that. But I don't know what they're going to do because I mean we got the Cowboy Bebop live action stuff coming up, and I'm not happy.
You don't like Cowboy Bebop, or was it because you're not excited about the live action?
I'm gonna reserve on it because I love Cowboy Bebop.
Okay, cool.
And the actors that they've got for it are good actors.
Yes, they're very great actors.
You can have great actors and you can have a great director, but then you can screw it up in the finish.
Yes.
Well, and then you can
I'm,
choose.
I'm gonna hold off on that. Netflix
You can
is the one
choose-
doing the Gundam movie, so I've got high hopes for that.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, because they
truly
did
excited
Full
for
Metal
that.
Alchemist. That was a big live action movie.
Well, keep in mind the Full Metal Alchemist movie was actually done in Japan. Now,
Yes.
I do have reserves on the fact that it doesn't matter that the source material it came from Japan. The story itself is a more, Eastern, I'm not Eastern, but like Germany, Eastern Europe kind of thing. And you would get people to play and do those things for those roles. I mean, I know that we're going to get into a whole thing here, but it's like Ghost in the Shell. I love Ghost in the Shell. I love the movie. I thought it was great. I love the anime series. I've read all the mangas.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan.
He's a huge
And I was happy with Johansson playing her because the fact that if you read the manga, any of the source material, the Major has a Caucasian sex bot as the body that she inhabits, even though she is Japanese. The body is not.
Yeah. 'Cause
So-
she tears up constantly.
Yeah,
Like-
she tears up my boss all the time.
Movie alone, I think she just her arms and other appendages just get ripped off of her. I'm like, damn.
Yeah. So, which is Ghost in the Shell is technically in a way it's not a giant mech enemy, but it has mechs in it. I love that stuff.
I like those little spider ones from the series. They're so cute.
Yeah, the Tachikomas. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Max stuff. Like, if we're talking about robot stuff, period.
Yeah.
I loved the remakes of Robocop. The newer,
The
Okay.
one
The Joel
Robocop
Kinnaman
movie.
one.
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
newer
that one.
versions. I love those. It was so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, Joel Kinnaman as Robocop that worked for me. I actually enjoyed that, but it didn't do well, so they're not doing anything more with it.
I thought it was good too. But the problem with that movie though was for one, and this is a thing that I want to talk about in another episode, definitely about filmmaking and process and decisions, because I'm sorry, when you decide to make your movie based off of a rating, you limit your creativity of what you can do. It's easier to go all full out and then back it back after you've done it than to make it at that point, because
The 4 extra hours.
that's
Sorry.
true too. But
Sorry.
like there was some design concepts for RoboCop I didn't like. The fact that like he had one normal hand with a robotic arm. I'm like, why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any
Was
practical.
it nerve still intact, so that could possibly
There
contribute?
was there was a lot.
But if we're gonna go back to the whole thing of like taking a movie that like hinders itself, you know, one of them would be like Terminator Salvation, if I remember correctly. What was it? It was Terminator Salvation. It was like that movie was a PG-13 movie, and it could have been so much better if it had been an R or made to be an R. Because I'm sorry, Terminator needs to be an R movie. It's not for kids. You know, if a parent feels that they should be able to watch this, I mean, this is literally about a machine that wants to commit genocide. So, and they're not going to sit there and like, there was points in that movie where like, I'm sorry, but if you have a machine that can literally rip through the chest of somebody and just pull out their beating heart, like Kyle says, you know, why would it just throw the guy up against the wall, or Kyle or John against the wall? No, it would just grab and break his neck and be over.
Yeah.
I mean, that's there's no reason for it to be this like, oh, the whole point of like the fear of Terminator 1 was like, you know, if this thing touched Sarah Connor, especially when she's in the foundry and she's trying to get away through it with the compressors, the things.
Yeah, compressor, yeah.
Compress.
And you know, if that thing would have got her, broke her leg, she would have been in pain and she would have been mobilized. That's why she was moving. She had to make herself move because this thing, all it needed to do was touch her and it would kill her. And the same thing with what they did with Terminator 2. If the T-1000 laid a hand on him, he would have died. That's why the T-1000 never gets close at all to John Connor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there's actually quite a few movies that have that whole premise where they made the movie based on a rating instead of just making the movie they wanted to make and then cutting the things they did like they used to do with movies. You know, it's one thing to go and take a movie like Aliens, you know, and it being too long and them cutting it back for time and maybe taking out some redundant scenes. And it's still an awesome movie, which technically has robots in it because it has the Bishop and it has the power loader.
Get away from her, you bitch.
There goes the cussing in this episode now.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
All right, Vinny, quick question.
Mm-hmm.
If they continued with the Terminator series, would you see it being a possibility that they would have something that did some kind of transformation, some kind of like a mech that's, or like some kind of ground thing that turned into a robot that mainly was meant for stomping people?
Well, based off of what was established, at least with the first two movies, right? The T-1000 was the last thing that Skynet had time to build. So there would be no other, unless you're like talking about, okay, this is an alternate timeline, it doesn't take place with this, and we're dealing with like different dimensions because of the fact that everything's been fractured because of how many times the Terminator's been, I mean, Skynet's been sending Terminators back to kill John. It's caused this like
A long time.
like it's like destroyed time itself. So like, you know, Skynet realizing that the more it does this, the more it's going to, no one's going to win, and it doesn't want that. So it sends out the super powered Terminator that goes around killing all the different versions of the T-1. I mean, not T-1000, but all the different Terminators that went back through time. So it has like just the, you know, the original one that went after Sarah because it needs that one to be born.
Yeah.
And then the one it attempted to do or it just erases the T-1000 and tries to do it again. But you would have to honestly tell stories that don't have to do with John and Sarah. That's the only thing that you're going to be able to do to save that franchise. As long as we know then have an established canon, like, okay, we know that John gets born because of Kyle Reese. We know that, and the only way that happens is because John sends his dad back to the past to save his mom, and they fall in love, and you know everything happens.
Which had to have happened
Right.
for him to even be born. So
Right.
that's something that no matter how you look at it,
Mhm.
that timeline has to play out or none of it happens anyway.
Right. So, and then you can do the whole thing of like, we know that Skynet fails to destroy John. And, and if you think about it this way, right? I think of it like Skynet builds a time displacement stuff, sends back the first Terminator. It fails, but the chip's there, so it knows that it fails. But it now knows that the only way it's born now is because of the fact it sent that Terminator back. So it continues to do the process. So it's this ongoing cycle of we both got to send our dads back so we get to be born for both John and Skynet. Now, the only way the reason why Skynet never knew that it failed with the T-1000 was because the fact that the T-1000 gets melted. Now, also, when they decided to throw the chip into the thing, you could say, oh, well, because John throws the chip inside the molten metal, that Skynet never has that information. Well, technically not, because whoever funded Cyberdyne had probably had backups of this stuff somewhere. So Skynet could still happen, regardless of what they did. And Cyberdyne failed at what they were trying to do. So, because you can't change time. I mean, time wouldn't allow it itself to be changed and manipulated as much as it did if it were to. That's why I know that James Cameron wanted to have a bookend where John becomes a senator and all this other stuff, and he has a future and there's no war that happens. But the problem with that is, like, you think about like movies where you're in a situation, and I know we touched about this before, where a person goes through like these weird, crazy circumstances. And they finally defeat the antagonist. They decide that they're going to. Well, how do you think society's going to feel? Sarah got locked up. I mean, they technically found the T-800. All the evidence was there, but it got covered up by Cyberdyne. Sarah was locked up. So you think about like a person that did all this stuff. There's no evidence. There's no evidence that there was a T-1000 or T-800, other than the fact that the photographs that the guys or any kind of camera surveillance stuff that picked them up.
Yeah, which if that were the case, you'd have to understand that
when the cops showed up at the foundry, they would have been arrested, or they could have been arrested. They don't know that. There's that, like, what John would have to be somebody else. He would have to like completely change his name and reintegrate himself into society, and then for him to become a senator. But to go on back on what I was trying to say is that the only way that you can make the Terminator series successful is to tell stories that don't have to do with John or Sarah. Yeah. So you either tell stories of Skynet trying to figure out if time can be affected by killing a target, or you tell a story of the future war. You maybe tell a thing about when the nukes happen and how people have to like escape and survive. What about like when Skynet first sent its infiltrators out there, or the T1s, the T20s, and all the different versions of the Terminators that go up to the T-800. Tell stories about that. Tell the story of how John was the one that rose up and got people to want to fight back against them. Tell about the concentration camp where John goes and saves Sarah. I mean, not Sarah, but John saves Kyle. Man, my brain's like, I'm sorry for my brains all. I feel
like there's enough of a story.
There's so much you could do. You don't need to go back to the well of going, oh, here's the idea, here's the concept. We're going to take a Terminator, we're going to send it back to the past, and we're just going to mess with time. But we're going to mess with Sarah and John. And then we're going to try to kill John, and because John's irrelevant, and then we're going to just do the same thing again. I mean, I'm sorry, but like,
I know.
Genesis and
I didn't even watch that
Dark Fate were garbage. I mean, they disrespect James Cameron's work. They disrespect the story of Terminator, and it infuriates me. And I'm sorry if my passion's showing, because I enjoy Terminator.
Real into it. It's okay.
Terminator, the Now comics from back in the day were great. The Dark Horse comics were great. You have so much source material that you can draw on. Why are you not? Why? It's because you just don't want to have to pay royalties. What, on a 20-year comic That's ridiculous.
I think I think when you tell somebody they want something made, they instantly want to show their perspective or their version of that. So they always want to go back to the origin stories. They've done it with so much stuff, and we're definitely getting off topic, and I apologize.
Well, and that's the thing is like, we need more. That's what we need to have. We need to have more fans stand up for things they like and say, hey, we don't want to do this. No, what you're doing is wrong. What you're doing is not right. And I'm not going to spend my money on it. And we need to speak with our wallet, and we need to speak with our voices because, look at what's going on with Star Wars. It's like, it's so hard to be a Star Wars fan right now. I'm always willing to give Lucas and Hasbro and them my money, as long as they're not like just rubbing what I grew up with and what my nephew and Colin and my dad and my entire family and millions of others around the world grew up with, just because we want to have some kind of like put in some kind of agenda. We want to like insert a character. It kind of reminds me of the whole thing of like, remember back in like the early 2000s when people would sit there and write their own fan fictions, and then they would take a source material. They take a source material. Yeah, go ahead. Or you want to finish?
As a female, and my dad raising me to be a strong, independent, you don't take crap from anybody, you speak your mind, don't let anybody ever walk all over you. My father taught me that stuff. My father is my mentor. And that doesn't mean that he taught me to be somehow submissive or to not know my worth, but he taught me that if you wait for somebody to do things for you, open a door, whatever, you're going to wait your entire life. You just do something because it's the right thing to do. I feel like with the Star Wars movies that came out, and people are probably going to bash on me and think that I'm a woman hater or whatever. There was nothing wrong with Luke being that strong fatherly character towards her, towards Rey, because she didn't have that. You know what I mean? And she learning that she has the Force, who else is better to learn from than Luke? I felt like they really did Mark Hamill wrong.
Luke was a dick.
First off, he was horrible in the movie, and I know that he didn't like that as a actor.
Well,
I know with how it turned out.
It's sad because here's the thing is that there's a thing in Hollywood, and I've noticed this trend before with other things. There's a thing about having fathers be trash. And I know we were talking about the fact of like Real Steel and the fact that he was like this garbage character, and then he became a better character and a better father. But it's like they don't have movies that out there that have dads that are real dads that actually spend time with their kids, that try to that sacrifice everything for their kids.
There's
their dreams, their hopes.
Nowhere near as many as I think there needs to be.
This brings me to a whole argument about things. Is that it's the whole idea. Now, it's the women are good and men are terrible. The reason why there's no dad movies that you're talking about is because dads are usually seen as aggressive, abusive, harsh towards their kids, and moms are caring types. But children need that type of harshness, because the reason why fathers do that is they do that because they want to see their child succeed. That's the only reason why they do that. They do it because they want the child to be better than they were. They want to boast. They want to be proud of their kids. It's why fathers do that.
Well, remember, there's sometimes that people can get confused with being stern and teaching a child that there's a respect level and that you can't do these things, and being maybe a little harsh to abusing somebody is totally different.
It is, and a lot of people, I think, they blur that line, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
why do you think there's no male protagonists in any more Disney movies? Like, I think the last one they had was probably Toy Story.
No, the last. Well, no, because I mean you have Soul, but that's a Pixar movie. But you have, or I don't remember if it was that a Pixar movie.
So
Soul.
I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah. So what?
Yeah.
That was
But
actually pretty good.
yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed that a lot.
Very good. I almost
But
cried. But-
Treasure Planet was a movie about
Yes.
a male protagonist, but it had a mom character and the dad was gone.
Yeah.
But I think the dad passed away, but the kid had resentment for his father.
Mhm.
And
I think that's
no.
why it played up on the whole him becoming friends or seeing a fatherly figure in essentially what was, what's his name? It's not Blackbeard, right? Yeah. Same for
Yeah.
Treasure Island. It's the same Treasure Planet.
Yeah.
Because he kind of saw that fatherly figure in him and was blinded by what that person's actual end goal was. He allowed his want to have that father in his life to cloud his ability to see what was happening right in front of him. And that goes back to kind of what I was saying about the whole Star Wars thing is I felt like how they ended it was kind of a cop out. Like, yes, it's great that she's like, I'm Rey Skywalker, whatever, but I felt like you did not earn that last name.
Well, it's
Like-
Man up to it.
here's the
I never
thing.
saw the third one.
You're not missing much.
I refuse to watch it. They've told me about it. I refuse to watch it.
I watched it for free, so I'm not. I'm not gonna. I don't mind admitting that because I wasn't gonna give them my money.
I haven't
Basically,
seen that. I haven't seen Solo. I haven't seen The Mandalorian.
Solo's good. Solo's good.
Solo was good,
Good.
but Rogue One was the best. That's the
Yeah.
only good one out of the whole thing that they've done.
Rogue One was the last Star Wars
Out of the
movie.
live action movies have been good. And you know what's great? And they can't take this away from us, for us real Star Wars fans, is the fact that Mandalorian season 1 and 2 brought Luke Skywalker back and he took Grogu. And you know what's great is even if there's nothing else for Star Wars, it still fits in the EU.
Yeah.
I'm so glad they got
Where
rid of it.
Luke
Were you tired of?
is the Grand Master,
It
where
was
Luke raises a generation of Jedis.
Not Grogu.
Not Baby Yoda.
Not Baby Yoda. It was based on.
He wants more Mandalorian. He's
I
like,
want Mandalorian. Okay, this is what I want to happen. Since we all saw the last season of Mandalorian, right?
I don't know if Colin has. Colin, have you
I
watched
have not seen
Mandalorian?
any Mandalorian yet at all. I know a
So
good
you
deal of the
gotta be
story.
quiet about
I'm
it.
sorry I spoiled that for you.
I know most of the story.
Because
seen,
of Facebook.
I've seen.
Yeah,
No, I actually went and wikied it and did stuff, and I've seen the final scene there, where Grogu, they come to collect him or whatever.
Man,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I cried because it's like that's what I wanted. I wanted Luke. I didn't want
Your uncle.
this person that I've looked up to as a role model in my life to
You
be
did.
this like garbage character. Everything he did was not Luke. It's like how can you write a story and think that your audiences that are guaranteed that's going to give you money is going to be happy with what you're doing.
Yeah.
I hate
And like I was like when I went and saw that movie, when I saw Force Awakens, I was like, okay, I can see the similarities between A New Hope and everything that was going on. I felt okay with it. I had problems with the fact that Han Solo died, but I understood that Harrison Ford did not want to play Han Solo at all.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that was the reason why he came back was that. But for me,
Because he'd always said, kill my character off.
yeah, he wanted him to
Yeah,
kill dead in Return of the Jedi.
Jedi. Yeah.
But when I saw the last Jedi, I mean, that movie frustrated me to no end because I was conflicted when I saw that movie. I remember calling my dad and saying, "Hey, Dad, I went and saw the movie. I thought it was good, but I'm conflicted because of things in it, and I wanted him to see the movie so we can talk about it." And because I think the thing that was clicked with me is like I can't believe they did this. I couldn't believe, there was like story arcs in that thing that I thought was like kind of a cool idea of maybe Rey being a clone, because like the whole thing of like her seeing the multiple versions of herself as like a foreshadowing to her being a clone or something. That didn't pan out to be anything. The whole like the side quest of like, oh, that's a big fetch quest to. I've only watched the movie once. I've only watched it
Same.
once. I will never watch it again.
Last year.
Ever. I don't even own it. I refuse.
Colin looks disgusted. He's like, talk about it. I remember you guys having the toys, the Star Wars toys, like the giant Millennium Falcon and all of that stuff. Like I remember going over, I think it was it was either your house or your grandmother's house. I think at one point you had like all over the floor, like all of them.
Yeah, because I think it was a lot of the figures I think Dad gave to Randy for his son.
Yeah.
And, we were there, and I think, well, it was funny because I think that was the time we went in there, and then we went into that a storage shed and had all the GI Joe stuff in there, and I was like, it was like the Holy Grail.
I'm in heaven.
It's just like Star Wars and Disney has so much reference material. They have Star Killer. They have what's his name with the purple and red lightsaber. What's his name?
You're talking about Darth Revan.
Darth Revan. They have Darth Revan to do. They have Mandalorian. Okay, so Mandalorian Mando, he fights what's his name, and in the Mandalorian context, it says whoever duels a person with his blade and wins is the ruler of Mandalore.
Yeah, becomes the next Mandalore.
Mando is now the king of Mandalore. He can rule and he can bring back Mandalore.
I think.
That's what I want to happen.
But see, if we're talking about Star Wars lore, though, he is now Mandalore. That would be his new title.
I would love to see like him realize what he'd done and realize like how much he respects them because they saved his life and go rebuild what was taken from his people. I would love to see that.
So here's
my fiance was just yelling at us to be quiet in the bed.
Be quiet. Be quiet.
Because he hasn't watched all of it. So just hear him yelling. Sorry.
So the thing is like, I knew something was up too, because whenever they released, there was a book that was like the legends of Luke Skywalker, and it was like all these people on a ship, a freighter, and they're talking about their stories they've heard about Luke Skywalker. And the story that drew me out, and I've never heard anybody talk about this part in the book, because I was like, I stopped reading. I was like, wow, I wasted my money on this. I hope the movie's not going to be this bad. So apparently during Return of the Jedi, when Luke fell into the Rancor pit, he got this flea on him. And it was this female flea. And I don't mean to say what its gender was, but it was a female flea. And it was promptly put that way in the book. And it was the flea that helped Luke through the whole process of what he did with Jabba. Like Luke had no idea what he was doing. He had no 2-3 years of him being, learning how to build his own lightsaber, learning the teachings of Obi-Wan Kenobi at his Kenobi's hut, back on Tatooine, him honing his skills as a Jedi. No, it was this flea telling him what to do. So you literally undermined the actions and what this character did to help better your BS movie.
Wow.
I mean, it's really bad. I stopped reading because I don't even know if like the flea follows him all the way through the whole battle with Anya or with Vader and the Emperor.
Vince is like, I can't make this shit up. Like
I can't. It's awful.
Sorry.
What this reminds me of? Okay, this whole discussion reminds me of that South Park episode where they kept doing things to Indiana Jones. They might as well have just replaced Indiana Jones with Luke Skywalker right there. And it's the same thing.
Yeah. Which is funny because as much as we love Indy, Indy does babble, and he just kind of like coolly goes through luckily, he just rolls 96s. I mean, 69s every time.
69s every time.
For the whole thing, for the yeah. This is the
So,
throwback to episode 3.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, and I'm sorry we derailed it. It's just that storytelling. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead,
I
Colin.
was just gonna say you can edit this part out and make it a mini episode.
Yeah, mini episode.
Yeah, you can, really.
Storytelling in our home is very important. I mean, in our home was in our lives, because
Yes.
growing up, and if you think about society in general, I mean, people grow up in the fact that they have legends, Paul Bunyan and all these other like stories that influence their culture, their icons. They help be motivation for people. You may be down in your luck, and it was like, man, Luke is going through some stuff. And he finds his way through this, and he's got these great people around him. Man, I like Luke. I can relate to Luke. It's like, but why can't you? Why does it have to be the way it is now?
Just leave him alone.
Just,
Yeah.
Luke's lives matter.
Just leave Luke alone.
Oh no. Yeah, I agree. I think that Luke has his own amazing story that none of these movies that have been made can compare to the original 3. To me, they just can't. Like, I honestly feel that there was something about those that the only thing I've seen that's new that even compares or comes close to the way those made me feel is Mandalorian.
Yeah, and
Honestly,
Rebels.
that one has the Star Wars feel to it.
Yeah, and Rebels, but of course, Rebels was right before they started going and derailing everything. But
Yeah, and for me,
it's
Logan and Dad watched Rebels all the time. They were
Mhm.
very adamant about watching that series, and there's talks about, I think it's going to be a live action,
Mhm.
and they've already got somebody cast to play the main character that was in Rebels.
yeah. It's supposed to be the actor who played Aladdin.
Yes,
And
which is
Ahsoka.
great.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I really
Yeah.
feel bad for the actor.
Rosario Dawson. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing too is like going back to my fan fiction thing. For those that don't know, there was a period of time where people were writing fan fiction, and then when they would write these fan fictions, they would write themselves into the fan fiction, and then to kill off the original characters, and then they would become the hero of the story they loved. So it was like, that's what I'm seeing with Star Wars, because I'm sorry, if you want a strong female, Jaina Solo is a strong female. Leia is a strong female.
There's plenty of ones to pick from, and I'm okay with them creating a new, but don't
destroy the old to build the new.
Yeah,
don't destroy it. Do we destroy our parents when we're older? You know what I mean? Like, don't.
If dad asks that, you've asked that question to Dad, he may say yeah.
He may, well.
No, it's just a joke.
But
what I'm talking about.
Yes, we cherish our elders. We cherish those that made us into who we are. And I feel like the whole goal of those last 3 movies was just to kill off what people grew up watching to create
so they could tell their own story.
New story arc for the new generation. And at Disney World and Disneyland, they don't have original Star Wars characters walking around. At least to my knowledge. I mean, they've got like
Just
Wookiees,
Stormtroopers.
Yeah, and Vader.
Vader walks around, but it's the new characters. And I'm like, why can't you have
both
some of the originals? Why can't you have both? Like, what is so wrong with the male heroes that we're trying so hard to get rid of that? Why can't we have both? You know what I mean? Like, I'm okay with having a strong female character. I'm also okay with having a strong male character. There's nothing wrong with having both.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And tying back into anime, that is something that the Japanese have always done.
Always
They have
done, yep.
always revered their elders, and they continue the stories of the elders, and they continue the sagas from them. And
Exactly.
them, you know.
That's almost how
I mean,
we survive. That's telling the stories of your family and your loved ones and those types of things. It's how they live on through you and through your children.
And
you know,
learn
it's when
from
we
them instead of
exactly. And when we stop doing that, I feel that that's kind of our own little downfall in a way. I'm getting very like philosophical with it.
well, I mean, it goes to a deeper point in that, because that's, you know, we're looking at the fact that, unfortunately, and I talked about this too with Dad at one time, is the fact that you think about like the generation that were after us, the ones that were like, you know, we got rid of competition. We got rid of like, you know, you have to try to do something to be rewarded for what you're doing. You can't just get a participation prize.
Yeah,
you know,
that's unique. That's nobody else really can do as well as you can. Yeah, I get it.
You know, being able to hone a skill, you know, but anybody can do anything. You may not be the great at it, but if you work at it and continue, you could be the best there is.
Yeah.
You know,
anybody
can learn.
You can't
just give it to them. No. You got to let them work at it. It takes work. There's no, you know, fat removing pill, or I'd be taking it right now. I mean, there's no, you know, easy, like I can get to work method. You know, of course, now we have like, you know, you can binge watch shows on Netflix and stuff and not have to wait like we used to.
Well, they're starting to make you wait.
Yeah.
Disney's doing the right thing about that. They're like, no, yeah, you're going to have to wait until next week.
Well, a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're hurting for money, and the fact that if they don't do it this way, people are just going to cancel their subscription because they're mad about their poor decisions.
Well, either that or they would just go on, they'd purchase it long enough to rent or to watch, binge watch, and then they get rid of it. And then get it again once the new show comes out or whatever. Colin, you look tired.
I'm always tired. I'm always tired, sweetie.
I feel that.
You want to know my secret?
Hearing the woes of Star Wars can drain.
Yeah, I mean, that was...
You drain a man.
I mean, you know, I know there's guys out there that talk about Star Wars on a daily basis, you know, that were like, you know, that's their thing. That was us. I was like, we're talking about this, and then we would talk about what ifs. What if we could do? What if the story went this way? What would happen? Right. You know, there was times that we would come up with stuff that, sadly, like my dad would always say, man, there was a microphone in that room. Someone got the idea we came up with. But you know, that's the great thing about, you know, the human experience, is the fact that, you know, sometimes we're connected on the same wavelength. So we hear we do things the same thing. Or we create things that maybe somebody else created, or at least they thought about, because we were connected.
Great minds think alike, and I really honestly believe that.
I'd rather have a microphone in that room than wherever the microphone was that recorded Speed Racer.
What, the live action?
No, the cartoon. No. I heard somebody at a convention once say that they accidentally recorded a porno.
There was a time when I don't remember if it was when we lived in Wentwood or Mark and them were living there, but I remember what used to be my room, Mark was in there, and he actually found an audio of one of those episodes, and it was Speed Racer, and it was the girl, and they were in the car together, and they were making a lot of
Trixie.
Kind of inappropriate noises, and them two were laughing about it, and I was like, what are y'all listening to in here? Because you know how I was. I didn't like inappropriate stuff, because I was like, I'm a little girl, I don't need to hear that stuff. But
it wasn't what you thought it was. It was just
no, that's like literally.
It clearly sounded different.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I laugh about it now because it's like, it's what it was. It was literally the Speed Racer soundtrack, and it sounded bad. I was like,
well, it's funny because, you know, context is a big thing, you know. So like you may hear something that may be, or see something that may be something, but in reality, it may be something totally different. So it's all about perspective too.
Yeah.
Right. And let's tie that back to Transformers. If you listen to the changing noises without seeing them transform, that doesn't sound quite right sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? It's so iconic now.
Yeah.
I mean,
when
come
I
on. How many times would I be sitting here playing with a transformer when in the living room when you guys are in there and me going just making the sounds every time? I still do that now.
Yeah.
I try to do that with Edward and stuff, so he'll pick it up too. So it's like I'm gonna pass it down.
It's okay. The other day I didn't want to get out of bed, and Brock's like, "Get up, come on, woman, you need to get up." He's like, "All right, Autobots, transform and roll out." And I rolled out of the bed, and I was like, "I'm waiting for you to say that." And he's like, "Wow."
That's awesome.
I folded up into a donut and rolled off the bed.
A dough woman, because I'm just fluffy.
Yes.
Right.
We humans can change into shapes. Most of us go round, but I'm going to try for triangle. Gotta think forward.
Turn plaid.
Be like the Wonder Twins. Form up a bucket of water. Speaking of that, we started watching Birdman, Harvey
Birdman.
Oh.
That is so fun.
Oh man, I remember the first few episodes, and now Brock's like hooked on it, so he watches it occasionally. I'm like, I'm trying to go to bed.
So and now they're doing a spin-off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they are?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Oh my gosh, that's just what we need. So Vince, is there anything else you want to talk about? I'll be
No.
there.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Let's end it on the original topic. Let's go back to favorite Mech toys. Like what's behind you there?
So my favorite transforming toys, I mean, if you Transformers, because that's what I can afford. I mean, I can afford like even the masterpieces, but if I could collect something, it would be the Macross stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to be able to have like a lot of those Valkyries, but you're looking at like $300 to $500, maybe $600 for one just to import it here. And it's just like they're amazing. Their articulation is great. They transform just like they would transform in the show, but they're expensive.
Wasn't there mine would have to be, I thought at one point they had either a model or a toy of the motorcycles that became the suits.
Yeah.
And Robotech.
The Cyclones. Yep.
Yes. If I could find one, that would be what I would be after. That would be the swag that I would have in the office, right? Displayed properly.
Yes. So so I'll put it this way: if there was a mech that if there was a figure transforming mech that I could get, it would either be a tie between the Garland from Megazone 2-3,
right?
The motorcycle that transformed into the mech, the red one, which is funny because I remember my dad had all 3 episodes on a VHS tape because that's how we got it from Japan, and it was subtitled. It was a fan subtitle. And this is way back in the day. You know, he called it like he didn't know the name of it. So it was like Breast and Bikes or something. He titled it because there was a couple love scenes in the anime. But yeah. And then the other one would be the new YF-29 Isamu Dyson Custom figure. Those would be the 2.
Do I see Hot Rod behind you? Technically.
Yeah, he's right here.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would probably be another one that I would want to hunt down.
So that's the Headmaster. I mean, that's the Headmaster one from the Power of the Primes line. No, Titan Returns, I think. Yeah, there goes my cred against being a Transformer. But yeah. No, it's like because you don't talk about this stuff. That's the thing too. Is like, you talk about stuff and it's it's in your head inside out. But like when you're actually talking about it and you're in front of a camera, hey, you're it goes out the window. And that's a good thing about like doing stuff like this is being able to conversate about things, and it helps you get your tongue flowing and your brain going.
Creative juices are flowing.
Because when you're sitting in an office by yourself working on computers and there's no one to talk to, you forget to talk. You forget how to talk.
Yeah.
And then you're worried. You're worried that like when you say something, you may say something wrong. So you're like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm gonna do like this. And you're self-conscious.
My way of dealing with self-consciousness, I just talk to myself, and if I'm wrong about something, I'll correct myself and just keep going.
Yeah.
It's a little unhinged, but hey, we're fine.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, here's the pink and white. Was that RC, the female one that looked like something from Robotech?
Yes, I have her. Hold on.
She was one of my other favorites besides Hot Rod.
See, because I remember one of the incarnations that I saw on one of the series, she actually it looked like she had the wheels and everything, and it looked like the Cyclone.
Yeah. So like I know that one of the newer figures they have of her, it kind of looks like she's got like these wings with the because the way they designed it, the wheels and everything kind of like
or something.
Go back out.
Because originally she was originally wasn't she like some sort of Cadillac?
Well, no, she was a futuristic car, but it kind of had like a Cadillac kind of look.
Yeah, and then they made her into
in a way
a bike at some point, didn't they?
Yeah.
I wanted to say originally a moped, then a motorcycle.
Something like that, yeah.
I know that the original, when they went from 4 to 2 wheels, it looked really weird. It looked like a Vespa or something. And then they said, no, let's tweak that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she was in the movies too, the Michael Bay stuff with but she had sisters or something.
I think they had her in Bumblebee also, the movie.
No, she wasn't in that one.
I never saw that.
One?
Well, no, she was, yes, in the part where they're doing the whole
the very beginning.
War on Cybertron. Yeah, that's them. Yeah, she's there. Speaking of doing a movie right with Transformers, Bumblebee was pretty close. I still don't like the fact that they had to tie it into the original series and have Bumblebee's voice box be crushed so he can't speak. I hate that. I really hate Bumblebee not being able to talk. And I thought that the voice actor they got to play Bumblebee before he got his voice box crushed was perfect. I understood you could have done the whole thing of his memory is wiped and whatever, but I don't know. But I still love the movie. I think the other thing I hated about that movie too was having him take the form of the Camaro at the end. He should have stuck as the Bug. But I did an alternate scene where he transforms into the Bug and just pulls off. And why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you give your fans that ultimate eye candy of having Optimus Prime and a Beetle next to him?
Even if they'd done one of the newer ones, it still would have been fun.
Yeah.
I even think in that war in the beginning of Bumblebee, I want to say isn't Optimus Prime in that too in the beginning?
Yeah, he's in the beginning.
And he's the right kind of truck.
Yeah.
The flat face. And I was like,
Peterbilt.
What the frick? You're going to have him right in that, but you put him in what it was, that Mack truck. Triggered.
Yeah.
Yeah, and having Bumblebee become a Camaro, I mean, that's so easy to blame Michael Bay, but really you could blame Ted Bundy.
I had tea in my mouth.
The podcast generation, if you mention Yellow Beetle, it's not Bumblebee they talk about, it's Ted Bundy.
No, it's Ted Bundy, yeah. I feel like with those movies, they honestly, in my opinion, gave Bumblebee Hot Rod's kind of story.
I would have
Okay.
seen him more as I would have seen him more as Hot Rod than Bumblebee because of
Yes, because
Yeah, okay, I can
that like naive kind of kid like he was in the movie. That's why Prime gets shot and dies, you know, because he felt that he could try to do something. I felt that.
yes,
Not
and
Bumblebee.
in that movie, he befriends the kid, you know, and they could have just made him Hot Rod, which would have been cool because you could have turned him into a red Camaro, even though it was a Firebird, you know, originally. But
Yeah,
made
and
some
then,
out of it.
you know, you think about it, the Transformer movies became about which new car can we shove into this movie now, and it's probably
Yeah,
for
it was. It was a
sponsorship.
car commercial. Yeah.
It was a car commercial.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's not get into that man and his ability to ruin our childhood.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I love The Island. That was a good movie of his. You know, I know a lot of people like his Bad Boys movie. Both of them, all three of them.
Did he do all three?
I think he did all three. I don't know. And maybe only did the first two.
I don't know. Are there explosions in the third one?
Cool
I don't
guys.
remember honestly. Probably. There's always explosions in all of his movies.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. That was our episode. You know, tell us what your favorite giant robot movies and anime are, or if you want to continue on the conversation of some other topics we talked about, let us know what your opinions are in the comments. Let us know. We'd be happy to read them. And also, if you have a topic you'd like us to talk about, put them in the comments. Let us know. We'd love to be able to tell more stories about whatever.
Like,
All right, until
like,
next
and
time.
subscribe.
Have a good one.
Pieces. Deuces.